Hey everybody, welcome to Houdini Hangout. We are here the day before Thanksgiving, so hopefully you're winding down. If you're in North America or you're in the U.S., I should say, hopefully you're winding down your week and gonna spend some time with your family. But if not, that's what we're here for. We're here to do a little bit of Houdini and play around and have some fun and see what we can get up to. So thanks so much for joining us tonight. My name's Peter. And yeah, we're going to be looking into some flip fluids tonight. We're going to be looking into specifically how to do variable viscosity. And we'll look a little bit into what viscosity actually is doing when we set up our example and start working through it. So we'll start by looking at, just concept of viscosity and how we're controlling that in general. And then from there, we'll be, we'll look at, how we can control that with other objects and with other, different ways of manipulating that basically, whether it's getting close to another object or just setting our viscosity by default. There's a bunch of different ways that we could get into playing around with that. So that's the idea of what we are going to get into this evening. Again, I've kind of started streaming from my new office, which is exciting. And if you see anything weird with the stream, please feel free to let me know. I think everything's been pretty good internet connection-wise over here, but if not, you can always just let me know and just throw that in the chat. Or you could always connect on Discord. There is a link to the Discord server or an invite to our Discord server there on HoudiniHangout.com. So you feel free to go there and grab an invite and join the server. Hey, how's it going, Saul? Welcome to the stream. Like always, I like to kind of start out the stream by just saying, like, if you have a question or thought, or you're looking to, you want to bring something up, please feel free to drop that in the chat. This isn't just a one-way conversation. I'd like to have, I always love having back and forth and being able to talk to people, and everybody learn some more about Houdini. I think that's always a really nice way to do this, instead of just sitting here and listening to maybe what I have to say. I think it's always great to bring your experience and your knowledge as well. And collectively we can all kind of grow together. So, also, if you have a question or thought, please don't feel stupid for asking the question. There are no dumb questions in when you're working in Houdini. There's always lots of things to try to remember and to try to learn. So, I forget things all the time. I mess up here, on these streams all the time. So please feel free to, ask a question. If you're not sure how something's working, someone else is probably feeling the exact same way. And maybe I'm not doing a great job of explaining it. So want to be able to make sure that we can get a better understanding collectively. So if you're having if you're having any questions that come up, feel free to drop those in the chat as well. This is a safe space. There's going to be no, oh, that's a dumb question. Nobody's going to be jumping on you for anything, because we've all had them before and we've all kind of been there. So, those are always my kind of caveats before we start up the stream. Like I said, tonight we're going to be looking at variable viscosity. So thanks to, I think it was Brain Grapes that had suggested that in the topic suggestions. Always thankful to have people throwing stuff in there for the comments. This one just was actually very recent. It was actually maybe yesterday, possibly. So that's kind of cool. I just saw it go in there and I was like, oh yeah, we could definitely do that. I think I know how to do variable viscosity. So, I figured we'd give it a shot. And hey, who knows what we'll come up with. So thanks again for, putting those suggestions in there. That's always super helpful to me, because it lets me know the things that you're interested in. You can always give a little thumbs up or something on those ideas in there as well, if they're things that you're interested in also. So with that all being said, I guess let's get started and dive into some Houdini stuff. All right. Let me turn off my fade to black here and get us, so I don't have such a dramatic change if we do. Okay, so here we are in Houdini. Let's see, what are we gonna do? Let's first start with the geometry node as always. And let's create some sort of object maybe that we could work with here. So let's take a look at actually the topic suggestions. Let me pull this up here. How can I bring this up? This is a link to something. What is this to? I'm not sure what this is. Maybe it's a video? I don't know. I'm going to do something really dumb and try to download a video while we're doing this. Okay, there we go. Cool. Okay, so this is the video that that he had put in, which looks like it's from Jacktone Akore. So cool. That's awesome. I wouldn't say that this particularly maybe is the most variable viscosity that I've ever seen, but I think we're going to do something similar to this, and we're going to be using an object, I think, to do some cooling on a fluid as it kind of flows by it. So that's kind of the idea that I had here that we're gonna try to go with. So let's build just like a simple little rock or something like this, nothing crazy. We'll do that first. And then from there, we'll kind of see what we get up to. So let's say here, this is going to be our geo rock, I guess. This will be green for geometry. I don't know, just what I always do. Okay, so let's go in here and let's start with a sphere, polygon sphere. And I always like to change them to the triangulated version instead of the kind of polar, coordinate looking sphere type of a thing. I'm just going to give us a little more room here. And yeah, so we've got our sphere. Let's up this a bit more, maybe to 10. Oh gosh, we could probably even go way higher than that. Let's do something like 20 to start with, and we'll kind of go from there. Let's take a mountain, which is actually just an attribute noise nowadays. We had some conversation about that on the, I think on the Discord server the other day. Somebody was asking about where's a certain attribute, a certain parameter in this, and yeah, it's changed a bit since the old mountain node days. This now is an attribute noise SOP. It used to be a mountain SOP. Okay, so let's build a little bit more noise here. Let's get this up to 40, let's say. Gosh, we might even go higher than that. Let's do 80. Sure, actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go back to 40. And then let's play around with this a little bit. Let's maybe increase the noise a little bit. Let's see if we can't play around with the element size here. Hey, K4, welcome. Welcome to the stream. All right, let's do that. Let's see, can we do any interesting offsets here? I don't know. Sure, we'll just do some random offset. That looks great. Okay, so there's that. Now, what we could actually do here, something a little different. Let's just play with this a little bit more. So let's do something like this at 20. In fact, yeah, that's good. So let's do this. And then let's do a remesh, actually. To kind of rebuild this, the quality of this, right? And we can maybe get a better looking mesh from this then. So let's do that, and let's add up a little bit of smoothing maybe, just to kind of get us in a little bit of a better spot there. Yeah, cool, that looks great. Okay, so we have now a bit more of a uniform noise. Sometimes when you have stretching and things like that, of your mesh, you could stretch out your polygons, make them kind of weird shapes. So in this case, I'm just remeshing it to get a more uniform kind of triangulation of the mesh. You don't have to do it this way. I just kind of was thinking, oh, that might be a good way of doing this. So let's give it a shot. Let's see here. Yeah, I want to just add a couple iterations here in smoothing, just try to get some of the faceting out of there. That's all I'm doing there. So let's add another mountain. Again, it's an attribute noise, but mountain's a lot easier to type in there. And whoa, now we've got some crazy stuff going on here. Reason being that I think, first of all, our normals maybe are a little weird. Let me just see here. me just double check our normals, make sure those are okay. No, those are fine. Okay, so with our mountain here, we have them on 0 centered, and probably the amplitude is just way too big. Let's turn that off. Yeah, the amplitude's probably just way too big. So let's do like 0.1. There's 0 centered. And let's turn the element size like way down. Yeah, that's the problem. Noise is just way too high. You can see how crazy it's getting there. So we want to add some like high frequency noise to this. So let's go way down, maybe to 1. Use the value ladder here to just kind of dial this in. Yeah, something like that. And maybe, well, that's too much. All right, let's just kind of see what we can get up to here. Add a little bit more roughness to the fractal, maybe. Sure. That looks fine. That'll be fine. Okay, so let's do something like that, and that'll be our rock mesh. It's nothing crazy. It's just a little something. Okay, great. So we have a mountain here. Let's just add a null, just to say out rock, and we're going to turn that into a collider in our flip simulation in a second. Okay, cool. So let's do that. Let's do a. So I'm actually don't do this very often, but let's do a DOP network because we're going to do this in flip, and we're going to do this in DOPs. So let's do a DOP network here. And the reason I'm going with this in DOPs is I feel like I'm just going to have a little bit more fine control over the properties of the simulation this way. Setting attributes, things like that. In the SOP version, you certainly could do the same thing. I just feel like there's going to be a little bit more constraining us, maybe. So I just want to get a little bit more, control of what we're doing here. Oh, another thing I want to do as well is let's match size this thing. So let's do this, do match size, drop that down. Let's do a minimum here. And then I'm going to do an offset. And so maybe I'll just have it up in the air by about, let's say 0.35. That looks good. Looks pretty good. So we'll have it just up in the air there. That just makes it easier so we don't have to, have the ground plane move around and stuff like that. We can just leave the ground plane at the origin. So let's call this sim flip this VISC. Sure, that's good. Make that purple. I always like to kind of put these in different little like columns. That's just usually what I'll do, like if I have multiple geometries and things like that. But anyways, okay, cool. So let's start to build this up a little bit. Let's grab a flip object. Great. Let's do a flip solver. Grab those. Okay, so a flip object has a default SOP path, which we're not going to want. So let's get rid of that. Let's just get rid of that. There we go. Okay, cool. Great. I'm trying to remember. Actually, that's probably better. We could have just changed it to particle field, but that's all right. Actually, here, maybe this would even be easier. No, never mind. Sorry, that's the boundaries of the solver. Never mind. We're not gonna mess around with that, I don't think. We'll just put a right. Okay, so this is something I like to do a lot. Is so when you're in your flip solver, I like to actually just hit the display flag here, or this little what do we call this here? The hidden flag, because oftentimes with this off, you get this huge bounding box, and you can adjust that obviously, but if you want to like center which in your scene or whatever, it can be kind of hard to do because it's centering to that entire box. So I like to just hide the domain, the particle domain box. And we can also come over here and reduce the size of this a bit. So maybe we'll set that to 10 by 10 by 10. And you can see that if you grab over here, or like it's like actually grabbing on this side, it's just really kind of annoying. I mean, it makes sense what it's doing, It's just not my favorite feature. So let's see here. So we want this to be up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to grab this and move it up a little bit. So I hit enter in there to get us into this view state. And maybe we'll just set this to like 4. It's not, shouldn't splash too far. So I don't want to go too crazy with it. So let's start like that. So we're going to pour some stuff over the top of this and kind of play around with it from there. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's do I'm going to do another geometry object here because this will be a little easier to work with. So we'll say geo emitter. And then this we can just do, I like to do my like helpers in light green if some sort of geometry is helping with the sim. So let's put a sphere in here. And this doesn't really matter too much. We can just go, I don't know, 0.2. No, let's do 0.35 like that. Yeah, it's a pretty good size. Let's use a transform node here just to get that up into the spot that we want it to be. So maybe up in here will be good for now. And so with a flip emitter, we can do a flip. Let's see, which one is it? Flip DOP. So now that there's the SOP solver, this has been renamed to a flip DOP source. And so you can use this, and this will create a source from whatever you're putting into it. And remember that we're dealing with 2 different things in this emitter. We have the surface and then the particles. And so our surface, we're creating a volume there, right? So with that, we need to make sure that we have enough resolution in our surface to be able to then create particles inside of that surface. So if you have a really complicated geometry, let's say something like, let's just do our rubber toy real quick here. Just as an example, if we had this, right, we need to set our voxel size appropriately so that we can actually get the resolution of this, right? So this is actually kind of giving our shape that we're going to be emitting within. Then the particle separation actually gives us the particles that we'll be using. In this case, we have 867 particles in this one. And if we, let's see here. Yeah, you could do that as well, and I'll put it as a fog VDB. And so in that case, we can actually see the particles. So you could do that just to quickly kind of see where your particles are actually emitting from. So this voxel size is going to be kind of the starting, this gives us the starting shape. Now here with this sphere, we'll get rid of that guy. We have a smaller area. So the particle separation is going to need to go up a little bit more because it's a little too coarse right now. The voxel size, I mean, maybe we could do 0.05 and look at it that way. Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, you might see a little bit of faceting there, but that'll never show up in the fluid sim really very much. I mean, I wouldn't think you would see it almost at all. So, so that's first part. So let's just change this on real quick just to kind of visualize it. I'm going to guess 0.025. Let's just see that for right now. Yeah, it's not too bad. Okay. Maybe we'll just do 0.02 for right now. That's fine. One little interesting thing to note is that you can actually oversample it at the edge, like the boundary edge. So here you can see we can actually like give it a thicker amount at the surface. And that can be helpful to keep like surface detail and things like that. I don't think I'm going to want to do that. We can also we could always turn the oversampling bandwidth down. That's the thickness of how far we're oversampling. You can see that there. I don't think I want to do this. Oh, cool. Yeah. Hey, hello, Pampadura. Welcome. Okay. So that's all good. You can also add velocity and things like that to these, but I think oh yeah, the other thing too is if you wanted to do this differently, you could do it as a shell. So if you don't want it to be filled, you could do that and then just do like a thin, whoa, that's too thin. Like a thin shell here of particles. Now, obviously you need the SDF to be of a reasonable, thickness. So if we do that, there's no particles on the inside. Might be a little hard to see on the stream, but there's just a shell on the outside of particles. And if we do the oversampling, I think we could see that this is just kind of a shell. But anyways, just a couple things to mention there. All right, let's turn that off. There's our particles. All right, so there's our flip source. I'm just going to do another null here and just say out emitter. And color that one green. Actually, not sure that's going to be the final output, but that's okay. Okay, so let's just go in here and start setting this up now. So let's do a source, which is going to be, in this case, a volume source, which might seem a little weird, but we use this for pretty much like any pyro stuff or flip. I'm trying to think what else you would use that for. I'm sure there's something else I'm not thinking of. But anyways, this will bring in our flip data that we need. So this is going to go into the sourcing input, and here we can go down and initialize it to a source flip. In this case, we're just bringing in a surface volume. That's what we set up there, and that's why I set it back to the actual SDF, because we want it to be an SDF, right? And then for our particles, we're bringing in the particles and we're sourcing them, right? So we're killing the particles that are inside of the surface. And then, so that's important that if you go below, excuse me, if you go below the surface of, yeah, exactly, right? Yep, exactly. It's just particles as well. Exactly. Okay, so anyways, let's source these in here. Let's grab that path. Let's see here. Object, emitter, out emitter. There we go. Oh, yeah, hit the wrong button. Whoops. All right, there's our out emitter. Hit accept. There we go. I'm just going to go in here and change our guides for particles. I don't want them to be sprites. I want them to be the particles. It's just a lot easier to see that way. Not sure why that's a thing, but that's okay. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so there's that. So this should just emit our particles. They'll fall down. Well, they won't fall down yet because we need a gravity force. And if we do a merge here and do a static object, wire that in and just kind of shift these, shift these around a little bit. Yeah, well, yes, I know. There we go. Okay, shift them a little bit. There we go. Great. So let's grab our rock static object here. So SOP path, we're going to use that. Let's go to our geo rock. And actually we need to set that up as a collider. That would be good. So let's go in here and we'll do collision source. I knew there was a collider object type there. So, okay. So what this is going to do is give us geometry and a VDB. So it's just kind of a nice HDA that's a combination of those two things. So there we go. We don't need anything there. So our volume is going to be called collision, and we'll have a voxel size here as well. And I think that this collision source has actually been around for a few versions now. No, it's okay. I understood what you said. Yeah, you're asking if it's new. I think it's been here for a little bit. Yeah. Oh, that's been there. Collision source has been there since Houdini 16. I thought it's been there for a while, but it is nice because it gives you those two things. But that's funny. Okay, so I'm just going to put a couple nulls down here. Hello? No. Okay, so this I'm going to call geo, and this is going to be, let's just call this VDB. That's fine. Those will definitely be outputs. So here we should have the geometry. I don't think it adds anything to it in this case. No, I don't think so. So you could grab this one up here, I guess. The other thing it might do for you is like calculate some, what do you call it? Like velocity and things like that on it. Well, Le Pampadura, I think sometimes it is tricky. I mean, nodes are always hard to know, right? Like what they are. And that's why we do stuff like this, so we can talk more about it and talk about what things exist out there. But yeah, it can be hard to find new things. Oops, I don't want that to be locked. Okay. So here's our VDB. There it is. You can see our VDB of this geometry. So let's kind of dial this in a little bit before we go too far with this. Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Okay, so probably 0.05. Let's do that. And what I like to do here is I actually like to go the other direction with this. So let's go in here. Let's set this to volume sample because we want to use proxy volume, and we're going to go here by size, and our proxy volume is going to be our VDB. So right there, we're going to select that VDB we just created, put that into our proxy volume, and then I'm going to take this, the division size, copy this, and then I'm going to go back over to the, nope, not to the emitter, to the rock, and we are going to paste that into the voxel size. And then this is just a nice thing that we will be able to just control that from within this static object here. And the reason you want to do that is because, well, first of all, I'm going to hide the other objects. We're only seeing what's in here. So let's look at the collision guide here, right? So, and I'm going to hide this. So the reason you want to have that, or I think the reason that I like to have that linked like that is that we're creating this, this collision field in the solver, but we have to kind of sample that volume, right? And we could actually sample this volume, right, with this division size on a volume that is actually really low resolution. So let's see if I can explain that a little bit better, because I think it'll make some sense. So let's just delete these channels actually for 1 second. We'll leave this kind of mush right now because it's pretty rough. So I believe if we take this and go to like something like 0.25. Let's see here. Will this even? Right. So this isn't even going to do this. I was thinking that maybe it would oversample, but it won't even do it. This division size kind of doesn't really matter because what it's actually doing is purely just sampling the proxy volume. So I was wrong on that one, but that's okay. I was thinking it was actually sampling on top of it, but nope, it's not. It's just taking whatever volume you pass in here. So that's why we want it to be over here, because that control doesn't really have any bearing on this, but now it does. So now when we change this, we're actually changing that volume inside there, and we can see that that might be a little hard to see, but your mesh is basically getting more and more refined here. And since this is a grid, right, within the DOP context, right? So in here, in our flip object, we are going to have collision, right? That's going to be a field in here. And so that's what we're actually building here. That's why this looks a little different. So we're actually taking that SDF and converting it into a field over here. So just a little bit of, back end information there. If you really want to get super high resolution on this, you can go a little bit further with that. Whatever you kind of feel is appropriate, that's great. We'll turn off the collision guide because we don't really want to be building that every frame. Oh, right. So let's also grab the SOP path here so we can have the geo in here and we can actually see it. So I didn't do that yet, and that was why we weren't seeing anything there. And if this geometry is deforming or there's transformation on it or something, that would be an important thing to set up. But for right now, we're not really getting that. I mean, maybe we could in a little bit, but for right now, we'll just leave it static. Okay, so we have a flip object. We've got our source. I think everything's looking good here. Yeah, I think so. Let me double check here. Physical collisions. Yes. Right. This is the only thing that isn't completely done yet. So I'm going to grab this particle separation here because I want to control the emitter with that. So we're going to come over here, and right now particle separation is 0.02. Now it's back to 0.1, and we'll have really low particle count. So let's go back and set that there. And then those are just some of the things I like to do when I'm setting up something like this from a you know, from a kind of from scratch. And then let's do this. Let's do another merge here. We're just going to put our colliders over here. So we'll have our static object, and then we can do a ground plane. Wire those both in there. Great. And we should be good. Let's hit play and see what happens here. No, what are we missing here? Missing something. What am I missing? There we go. Weird. My viewport was just acting funny. Okay, so we've got this fluid flowing down here, and it's escaping out of the bounds of this simulation. So a few things that we want to do here. First of all, have some noise in these particles so that they're not static like that. So let's go in here. Let's go to our flip source, and let's change our jitter seed to be $F. Then that way that'll change each frame. And that should start making this a little bit nicer already. What is happening here? I think there's something funky going on with my computer. Sorry about that. Not sure what that's all about. Kind of noticed something was a little weird with it. Anyways, so now we should have these random fluids going here, and now each frame will get a different seed value for that. So that's important and nice. Let's go back up here to our let's go back up to our emitter. Zoom in a little here. And let's add some noise to this. So let's do noise. Actually do point velocity. I like this one. It's pretty nice. Okay, so we're not going to add any velocity. We're just going to keep the incoming. Then we're going to add a little bit of curl noise here. And I think what we can actually do, I think we can use a primitive properties here. And for our surface, I believe we can change this to invisible. I think that's fine. I think that'll be fine. Let's just try that. So we can, oops, sorry, jiggled my whole computer here. Let's do that and use that. This is the old primitive node, I believe. Kind of like the old point node, but okay. So let's do that and let's take a look at what the noise values here look like. So let's hit play here and kind of take a look at these. That might be a little hard to see. So let me see if I can change this to the dark gray background. Yeah, maybe that's a little easier to see. Looks like it. So we have some noise there. Okay, so let's adjust the swirl size here. I think maybe we'll just go down to like 0.5 and maybe make the pulse duration a little longer on these. I'll just slow it down a little bit. All right, let's try that. Turn this off. That is so weird. What is it doing? Well, that's really strange. Not sure what's going on there. I think I've got some weird visualization thing going on. Okay, so now we've got some fluid some noise being built into our fluid here. So that is going to be really helpful to make it look a little bit more interesting. I might turn it down just a little bit. It feels like maybe it's a little bit too high. Don't want to add maybe quite that much noise to it. We could also... No, never mind. Sorry. Looks like we cannot do that here. So let's go back over to our emitter. Change the scale to about half. I think that'll be good. And then, yeah, that should be much better. What's the difference between using velocity before flip source and after flip source? Okay, that's a great question, Gideon. Let's look at that. So I believe the difference here is going to be, so let's do this here. So the difference should be that if we take this point velocity and move it up here, right, and then get our flip source and take a look at this. Let's see. Is there a way to grab the velocity here? Okay, I don't actually know if this one will take it. Yeah, it's interesting. Looks like it won't actually source that in here. So yeah, this one doesn't take that in as an attribute to use. Some workflows will use that, but the reason that probably isn't super helpful is if you think about it, when you're coming in on this end of it, right? If you had an attribute on this sphere, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. If you had an attribute on this sphere and it was pointing in certain directions from the surface, right? Once you went to this flip source and this just hiding it, right? Here, I'll just turn this on, right? You only have attributes that are in the shell of this sphere. You don't have stuff on the inside. So it's going to have to, interpolate those, or not even interpolate those, but just kind of project those into the sphere. And it's not really going to make a very nice noise pattern. And it'll just kind of be whatever the closest surface point is. It's going to pick up that value. So that would be how that would work if it was supported on this node. And I think that's the reason that it's not, is because it doesn't really give a very good result. Whereas here, when we use it after the fact, each and every point can get its own velocity value. And then that gets transferred into the velocity grid, and obviously in the points as well, because flip is going back and forth between points and volumes when it's solving. So you having this on the points at first will then get sucked into the volume that's being solved on as well, and around and around it goes, kind of a thing. So so I was thinking it might work that way, but it looks like it does not. So so that's why I put it after it, because that's the only way to do it apparently. But I was thinking that we would be able to use that, but it does not seem that is the case. Okay, so let's see here. Why is that pinned? Is that the problem maybe? Maybe that's the problem. Let me just see here. Maybe that was my problem. Maybe that was my problem. This network was pinned for some random reason. Anyways, whatever. We continue. Okay, so great. So we have that all set up. Now, one thing that we might want to just take a look at here real quick is we have two different spots here where we can look at things, right? We can do our particle fluids and we can say make viscous. So that could be helpful. We can use that to make a viscosity on this object. So if we did that, if we used our make viscous, so select a flip object to make viscous. So now I can select that flip object there. And then actually, yeah, that's right. So we'll hit enter. So then it gives me this little thing, control the viscosity of your fluid globally with the volume, motion, viscosity tab. Control the viscosity of your fluid locally using the viscosity attribute on the particles. So we now have two ways that are being told to us to use this. So we now have a viscous fluid, which this won't change it too crazy. I mean, definitely it's viscous. It's not going to be flowing quite as much, but it's, it's got a little bit of movement to it. So now we have a viscous fluid. So we're getting there, right? We're getting part of the way there. So that's an easy way to make something viscous, is by using the shelf tool. So now here, if we look at this, we'll see we've got a splashy kind of sort of thick viscous fluid. Let's look at what that did, because I believe that's going to add something to our emitter. No, did it add anything here? No, I thought it did, but that's okay. So really what this has done then is just set a few properties here. So one thing it's doing is making this add viscosity attribute. So that's one important thing that it's doing. And then in here, in the actual flip solver in the viscosity tab, we have an enable viscosity and a viscosity by attribute. So now we have an attribute and and we've enabled it globally, right? We could just have it enabled globally and turn off viscosity by attribute. That would work as well. But now we have this attribute that we can control. There is also this slip-on collision, which I believe. Oh, there we go. Never mind. I thought I figured it out. I did not. So I believe this is going to give us better slippage on the actual collision here. And we could, I believe, set this up. Let's just do one. Let's see how that works. So I believe this is just going to like kind of flow right off of it now. Yep, pretty much. It's got a little bit of cohesion almost, that it's like sticking to it, right? But it's basically just slipping right off of it, and it's not, everything's just kind of flowing around. Oh, that's cool. Slip-on collision works really well inside of glasses. Well, that's good to know. So this is just kind of flowing around the object, and it's basically like a way to kind of control the friction a little bit within the viscosity, because the viscosity can kind of really take over on any friction controls that exist in there. So like if you do something like 0.5, that would be a little bit in the middle of those two, and we can kind of see what that looks like. So we'll have a little bit of that sticking on the top, but it'll also slip as well. So it's kind of you could get these kind of in between middle grounds. You can get a lot of different stuff from it. So there we have, obviously just the basics of working with viscosity, right? We've got this kind of drooping, dragging, flip fluid, right? All this kind of stuff. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to turn the slip off for right now, because I don't want to have to try to worry too much about that. Oh, also, yes. So it may have changed this when we did our viscosity. When you're doing viscosity, you want to do APIC, which is a different, it's technically a kind of a variation on flip. So flip is a more splashy, as you can see there, splashy, swirly, but it's going to be better for like oceans and things that are like large bodies of water. Whereas APIC is going to be better for viscous objects and, viscous materials and things like that. So those are the two options you get for the transfer of velocity between the points and the volumes. I think when it's doing that, that's kind of how it's doing that calculation, basically. Anyways, so we've got that set up. Now, there are a couple things in here that we can kind of play around with too. We can do some like cooling within the actual fluid, right? So you could do that and increase the viscosity where it's cool, where the fluid is cooling. Let's just say it's like, say it's like it's like a lava type thing. You can have it cool internally, and like solidify. That's going to be very similar to how there's a shelf tool. Actually, we can look at that real quick. Or not a shelf tool. There's a flip configure lava. If we look at this, we should have this cooling down as well. Where are we doing that? Sorry, just trying to remember where exactly we're doing that. pressure, sphere, attribute source, temperature. Okay, so there, we're bringing that in. Yeah, there we go. We have varying viscosity, and I believe it must be inside of here. Yeah, there it is. Gas temperature update. That's what's doing it. So this is... Hey, how's it going, guys? Moro accessible. Um, we can use gas stick in collision mode. I'm not sure exactly what you're saying there, Moro. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's a question or if it's a statement. I don't know what gas. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just missing what I'm just missing what exactly you're saying there. But anyways, so here we're taking temperature, mapping it to the viscosity, and that's what this gas temperature update is doing. And so if we watch this, watch what it's doing, we can see that it will do a very similar type situation here where we have our collision here. Sorry, I just wanted to reset the viewport there for a second. There we go. All right, so we've got this, and it's cooling it down, right? So it's cooling down the, it's basically taking the temperature and mapping that to viscosity, right? So that's what we're mapping there, and we can do something very similar with our simulation as well. So this is just kind of a shelf tool, right? Just kind of a really default type thing that we can just see kind of cools and solidifies, right? And those same parameters here, cooling rate and all this stuff, it'll actually add those in if we do something like use these shelf tools here. So let me just see, cooling. Yeah, and then there's a solidify threshold. Okay, cool. So that's how that works in that instance. Interesting. All right, so let's go in here and let's just see if we can't do something similar here. So let's see, cool within the object. Oh, select. I see. I was thinking that this was within an object. I'm gonna hit escape there. Yeah, let's give that a shot real quick. Oh, okay. Okay, gas. Stick on collision. Okay, I see. I see. Hey, Epoxia, welcome. Welcome. Gas stick on collision. Gotcha. Gotcha. Yes, yes. So this gas stick on collision is going to be what's actually being controlled inside of the solver by those parameters. So yeah, you can use that as well though. Yeah, for sure. That's a micro solver, but that would be in here somewhere in this massive craziness. In fact, can we do this? There we go. Gas stick on collision. So right there, that's the one, and it's getting driven by all that stuff. Kind of interesting. So yeah, it's inside of there. But yes, you're right. That is exactly, you could use that as a separate node if you wanted to see that a little bit easier than going all the way inside of that, right? Yeah, I mean, this is pretty chaotic in here. I believe a guy by the name of Fuat did a talk on this at SIGGRAPH 2023. where he was talking about microsolvers, and it's kind of cool. It was a neat talk, and he kind of explained a lot. He's from Rise Visual Effects, and yeah, it was a cool talk. He was just curious to get into some of that stuff inside of there, but he's a great guy, super nice. Anyways, yeah, so let's. All right, sorry, got a little sidetracked there. So I was thinking that this was going to emit within the. It was going to cool just the fluid itself, not that exactly. So let's do that. Let's do the gas temperature update, I believe is what we want. Yes. Okay. So let's do this, and okay, lava temperature field parameters, great. I might have to do a couple other things here. So let's see. Let's see here. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, cool. I didn't know that, Mattis, that you worked there. That's awesome. Yeah, he is. Yeah, Fuat's awesome. He's very cool. I've got to have dinner with him a couple times when I've been over in Europe, and had lots of meetings with him within the education stuff. And yeah, he knows everything. Yes, agreed. He knows everything. He's awesome. Great guy. Anyways, all right. Let me just remember here if I need to turn this on. Yes, I think we want to do this. Add a temperature attribute. And the other thing I'm thinking is, do we need a field here? I feel like we need a field. No, guess not. I'm trying to think. Okay, let's try that. Let's see if that works. So we turned on a temperature attribute, which I think will help us out here for sure. All right, so let's reset this because it keeps needing to. I'm gonna hit play here. I just want to see if we have a temperature field now. I think we will. No, we do not. Oh, yeah. Fuat. His name's Fuat. Just thinking, what is that we want here? All right, well, let's do this because I just want to make sure that I'm not. Well, let's try this first. This should go into the volume source. Yeah, I think there is in here if you're doing. Yeah. So, I might have to set up another field there. That's probably what I'm gonna have to do. But we'll see. We'll see here. Okay. Let me actually try something here. I'm just going to emit lava. Oh, actually, sorry. Hey, KG, welcome. Let's just do something real quick. I just want to. This is maybe an easy way for me to be able to see how to do this here. So I'm just going to turn this off for a second, our emitter there. I'm going to hide that, and we're just going to move this up a sphere here, and let's make this, I don't know, 0.3. This will just be a little test. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing something here, so we're not all, wasting our time. So, okay, so I'm going to take this sphere. I'm going to do the emit lava from it. We're going to select an object to emit it into, flip object, press enter. There we go. All right, so let's take a look at what this has done for us. Great, great, great. All right, actually, I'm going to undo that and just hit L on that. Okay. 0 seconds wasted here. No problem. Well, I'm glad. But I just want to see what exactly this is doing for us here. So we have surface there. Great. Okay, so that's all the same. Gas temperature update. That was exactly what I was doing. So let's just see here. All right, so we have a temperature attribute. Initial temperature. Not really much else. We're just setting a temperature attribute, I guess. Okay. Within here, did we change anything else? Let's just double check. Viscosity. Particle motion. Oh, we turned off receding. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Turned off receding. That makes sense because I think with high viscosity stuff, you don't want to. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, Moeen, another great guy. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Hey, don't do that. Make this smaller. All right. Let's just double check this here that we're good. Let's hit play. And that should solidify or begin to solidify. I'm going to turn the cooling way up. Let's do this to 1, maybe. Yeah, there we go. A little too much. Let's say 0.5. Okay. So interesting. I just want to see what exactly is happening here. Do we have any? I just realized I never muted that. Sorry, guys. What is happening here? Please give me a second. I never muted Discord. Hopefully you weren't hearing that. Probably were, which is very annoying. Sorry about that. Okay. So this is cooling. Great. Yep. Okay. Let's see. Do we have any extra fields here? No. Okay. But we have a temperature here, and those are adjusting. Okay. All right, interesting. Okay. So let's take this. We'll get rid of this one. So we just need that in the source. Interesting. I was thinking that that would go into like volume velocity, but that's okay. Okay, so here's our source. Cool. Okay, so we've got this happening here. Let's I'll get rid of this as well. Okay, so we have this. Let's add a temperature attribute here. I'm just going to do an attribute adjust float just because I think it's a little nicer to do than doing a just a wrangle. And we can set the temperature to be, let's set it to be 1 coming in. And we'll say that that's low viscosity is at 1. Temperature, there we go. Cool. All right, let's see here. And let's run that and see what we've got here. Cool. Now that's starting to harden as well, so that's cool. Okay, great. So we've got that. So yeah, we were only one little step away there. Just needed to get the temperature thing happening. So this is all well and good. This is fine. But I think what instead of like this process where we're hitting, we're just kind of hitting play and letting it cool from the outside. Like it's interesting. Like it's certainly an interesting thing to look at. If we were to do something like, let's visualize this a little different. Let's go into our particles. Maybe we'll say spheres, maybe. Oh, interesting. It changed. It changed it to black body. I didn't even realize that. Interesting. So maybe we do something like that, get a little bit more of an interesting look. We can see some of the like almost the surface more so. So that's cool. Getting a little bit of something there. You can see the cooling happening and all that kind of stuff. But what if instead of it doing yeah, it's pretty fun. I love doing lava stuff. In fact, at my last studio that I was at, there was one of our reels that we had. I did like our logo was like this. It almost looks like the TikTok logo, but it's the other direction. And hey, Brain Grapes, thanks for the suggestion. Welcome. So it's almost like the TikTok logo, but it was a D. Is that right? Or maybe TikTok is a D. It's very close to the TikTok logo, but they had it for years. And so I made a thing where like it shot lava like into the logo and it kind of like spun around and solidified and stuff. You can do some really cool stuff with lava basically. So we've got this. Yeah, you're welcome. It's a great suggestion. K4, I'm actually not thinking we're going to melt the rock because when you do that, that's going to be, there's going to be a lot of kind of back and forth going on there. We could certainly do that, but I actually had another idea where the rock was going to be the thing that was going to be cooling the fluid, right? So we'd actually be cooling the fluid from the rock, basically, where it would be sucking away temperature, or it could be adding more temperature into it. It could be like a hot object as well. So yeah, this is pretty fun. One thing too to note is that in the parameters for these nodes here for this gas temperature update, you can also enable temperature diffusion, which is interesting because what this should do is it should allow for the heat to stay in places that is close to other hot areas. So like it'll help the heat kind of spread out a bit more. Oh, hey, David, thank you. Thank you so much. That's very nice of you to say. And so what this should do is actually kind of let the heat spread out a bit more. It'll do it both directions. It'll have a heat and a cold bias. But you can see here that we won't have that same kind of hard shell forming on the outside quite as much, because like in the last one here, you could see that there was almost like this hard facing part of it, right? And so for that, the reason that was happening was because it was just letting the outside cool at a certain rate. So if it was on the outside of the surface, it was going to cool regardless. So this is now allowing it to kind of diffuse that temperature a bit more, and allow it to spread and soften a little bit. So that's a little bit of a different way of going about this, and actually it'll allow for some of the heat to transfer back into some of the original stuff that was there and let it flow again. So that's just a cool thing to kind of just know that's there. So Moro, you're asking a question: how can we do detail meshing on this flip? Yeah. So what I would do for something like this, there's a couple different things that you could obviously do here. First of all, because there's no reseeding, we're keeping all of the particles from the source, right? And so that's really helpful if you want to have some sort of a property flow through this simulation. Another thing that you could do here is you can actually use that temperature attribute to actually push that through to the surface. So let's just do this. Let's just add another geometry here. Just since you're asking about it, I think it's a good thing to think about a little bit here. So for example, we'll say, I don't know, we'll call this render lava, something like that. It's red because it's lava. Let's see. So we do a dot. Gosh, I always forget. Is it .io? Yeah, I think that's right. That seems right. Oops. So let's do a flip fluid. There we go. That'll import the things that we want from it. We'll select our DOP network, which is here. And then we will import our DOP node there, which is going to be our flip object. And there we go. You can see before we selected that DOP node, it was bringing in everything like colliders and things like that, which we obviously didn't want. So now what we should have here is we should have all of our volumes and particle information and all that stuff. So this is all looking good. So we've got that. And then if we do a particle fluid surface, this is going to take those attributes and start surfacing it. However, we need to grab our particle separation here, copy that parameter, because we need to set this here. So we'll paste that relative reference again. Now we have, we've got our mesh. Like, I'm not going to get into the actual meshing part of this, like whatever, it is what it is. There's lots of things and you need a ton of particles and blah, blah, blah. So what we're going to do is we can actually use our temperature attribute for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into transfer attributes. I'm going to do temperature, and this will actually transfer the temperature attribute over. Well, we can talk about that. That's interesting. I've never done that before. Put the fluid compressed between the DOP IO nodes. Yes, that's interesting. You could do that, certainly. That's not a terrible way of doing it. We could talk a little bit about the benefits of, the positives and negatives of that. Actually, I'll tell you what we should actually be doing, what should go in between there. We'll talk about that in a second. But so now here we can see that we have point attributes. And before we put temperature in here, this wasn't a part of this. So if we turn temperature on and we go in here, sorry, could have just done this. This is nice. I think if you control click this, shift click this, what is it? There it is. Control click that little thing. You can actually bring this up and we can say black body. There we go. You could also do this. I think, what is it? Is it like black to orange? Yeah, you could, whatever. I'm going to do black body. So there's our temperature there, right? So that is, we're visualizing that attribute, right? So this isn't going to be the actual color of it, but what I would then do is use the temperature within a shader and actually drive like a mix between two shaders, for example, like maybe one that's like emitting and glowing for like this hotter inner part, and then one that's like a, whatever the object is you're doing. I actually have done this before with like a molten gold. So I had the center part be like an emissive gold kind of color, and then the outside is when it kind of got into its final like metallic shininess. Like, so it kind of allows the flow between those two states. So that's what I've done with that before. So you can use that temperature then to kind of drive a whole bunch of different things. So just an idea there to take a look at. So back to what Brain Grapes was saying about the fluid compress. Yes, you do want a fluid compress in between there. Sorry. I thought you were saying the particle fluid surface between there, but yes, you are completely right. You do want a particle, no, sorry, just a fluid compress. I wish it was particle fluid, but that's okay. Yes, you do this. That is what you want to do. Then you'll come into here, then over to here. Now the problem that's happening here is that this is actually taking the temperature attribute out. That's why it's not showing up here. So we do need to add it there as well. Temperature. Yes, there we go. So what the particle fluid compress is doing, it is actually changing this into a series of packed, what is it? What is it? Particles, no. Can't think of the node name. Shoot, can't remember. Is it this? Convert VDB points? Yes. Yes, this is what it is. So I think if we do this. Yes, this is the this is sort of the same thing, but basically what it's doing is it's packing it into these different primitives or whatever. And I think actually if we unpacked those, just trying to remember. Anyways, so what it's doing is it's basically packing the geometry, making it a much more efficient way of storing that data. And so then when you do your file cache, you're getting a much more efficient storage of it. Now, in order to see it back, you do need to do something that will convert it back, right? So if you want to see your particles again, yeah, okay, pack points, yep. Oh, okay, pack points, that's what it is. Got it, yep. Yeah, that's what it is. There you go. So I think our tile size here says somewhere where it is. Anyways, so it's basically the same thing that we're seeing there. Pack points. And so then we have a certain number of packed geometries, right? So I think that this is 1.5. Yeah, it's close enough. Anyways, it's more or less what's happening here. I was thinking it was a pack VDB or something like that. But anyways, so basically you're packing all these points into a geometry and it's allowing you to store these much more efficiently. That's the idea of a fluid compress. Just because there's so much data that gets made there, both volumes and particles. So this way it's just easier to kind of get it all in one place. So, and it saves some detail attributes that allows it to understand what it's doing after the fact here. Because if we do particle fluid surface, we can actually do this one as well. Oops. We can use it in this mode and say particles, and we can get that. Let's see here. I'm just going to copy this over. There we go. And so now this should look basically the same as that. The only thing that it will change a little bit is there's an interior compressed fluid surface that you will see some losses on. Now this is pretty thin, so you really probably won't see it, but it can actually compress the inside to actually a maybe copy parameter, the particle separation. Yep, you could do that. I just copied it over. But yeah, so there is like this interior core there happening. So just something to know about. But yes, Brain Grapes, that was a great suggestion. Yes, you do definitely want to do that because that's much more efficient for your particle surface. So, so yeah, hopefully that makes sense and gives you some idea of what to do with these attributes after the fact. Another thing too is you can kind of blend these out as well, I think. So you can give them a little softer edge. I think you can take some more samples here, maybe. Yeah, I guess it's this one here, your attribute radius. It's going to give you a little softer blend between those. And obviously, if you were doing this for real, you'd want way more particles than this. It's not a high enough resolution for what it is that we're doing. So just something to keep in mind there. Okay, I'm going to turn this off for right now. Let's go back in here and let's take a look at this gas temperature update. I'm going to reset the viewport here just to make sure we're good. I'm going to turn off the temperature diffusion. I don't always love that. I'm going to just turn that off for now. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll keep it on, but just really small. Maybe that's what I'll do. Okay. So in this case, I might actually. Hey, Zach, how's this going? Welcome. I'm going to revert this back and just keep the cooling kind of where it was. Okay. And so what I think we're going to do here, let's actually go back over here. I'm going to change this back to particles. Play here. Okay. So let's do this. Let's figure out how we could take the surface of that, the surface of our, oh, Moro, I'm sorry. Oh, it didn't work well in render because this little temp transferred. Well, sorry. I've been there a million times where I'm like, I do something and then realize it like years later. Yeah, I've done that, man, more times than I could ever count. Well, at least you finally figured it out, I guess, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, sorry. Wish I could have helped you then. Okay, so what I think we're going to do is take an attribute on this and transfer it in here to the particles as they're coming in, and I think that'll give us something interesting to work with here, I think. So let's do that. Just thinking exactly how I want to do this. So we have the surface VDB that we could use. That could be helpful for us because we could figure out how far these particles are from the surface of these. But maybe what I'll do first is just transfer the attribute, make sure it's working, and then we can do some more stuff from there, because we do have this VDB and it has a certain bandwidth. Here we've got 4 band voxels, I think. So we might need to do a little more than that. But okay, so let's go into our GeoRock here. Let's grab this and let's set an attribute adjust float. And let's grab this and we will add a temperature to this. So let's call this temperature. And we're going to set this to 0. So this rock should have a temperature of 0 now. Perfect. There we go. Great. So let's now come into the sim here, and I think let's move this over a little here. Let's do a pop vop. So we're going to be doing a little vop network here, maybe. That's probably our, that's fine. This will maybe just be a little faster. We could do this with Vex as well, but that's okay. So our input 1 should be good. All right, input 2, we're going to grab a SOP, and that is going to be our rock. So let's grab, or geo, sorry. So let's grab that. I think that should be good. Let's go inside. Let's start messing with some stuff here. So we're going to want to bind in the temperature. And so that's going to be the particle temperature. So let's just name that Might be easier to keep track of it. Particle temp. And then let's import a... Okay, we need to import a point attribute, right? But we need to know what point number we're inputting it from. So let's say, oops, this is going to be a float from the second input. The attribute we're going to want is temperature. Temperature, if I can spell and type. Okay, so we've got that, but we need to figure out what the closest point is on that. So let's do this. Let's do a... let's just do a near point for right now. We'll take the position of the point and we'll take the second input. That'll get us a near point, and let's do that for the point number. So now we're finding the closest point to the particles that are in the simulation. We're then looking to that second input, which is the surface of the rock, and we're getting the temperature attribute from that. So we'll say rock temp. Okay, so we've got our particle temperature and our rock temperature. So this will always be 0, and this will always, well, this initially be something like 1 or whatever, but maybe let's do this. Let's average those together, and then every frame, it'll average those two together and kind of come, lower down to a certain limit. The cooling will have some effect as well from the gas temperature update, but this should, is that what it was called? Is that the name of it? Yeah, gas temperature update. Okay, but let's do this. Let's do the average. So do this and this. We're going to average those two together, and then we'll do a bind export, and this will be temperature. Okay, cool. Just make sure we're good here. Float, binding that in. Sure, we'll just give some context there so we know exactly what we're dealing with. All right, let's see if that does anything. I'm kind of hopeful it will, but I'm not sure. Let's see. Oh, right. So we need a threshold because we're too close. So we're just getting the nearest point. So, what is it? PC find? That should be better. Oh, but that's going to be an array of points. I guess it doesn't really matter. Yeah, that's fine. Let's just do that. Okay, so instead of this, we're going to do the PC find, point cloud find. We're going to do this on the second input. Great. So now, instead of this near point, yep, that's not going to like that. That's fine. So we're going to get a resulting array here. And sure, the maximum points, 10, whatever. The search radius 0.1. Maybe we'll reduce that a little bit more. Maybe we'll say like 0 to 5, something like that. And then here we can do an array, get array element. I'm going to put that in there. The index is going to be 0. The default value will be -1, just so that if we don't find anything, we won't be looking for some point number that exists. So there we go. So now we're going to, that'll get us the rock temperature there because we're taking the first element of this array that we're finding here. So, all right, let's try that now. Nope. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. How big is 0.25? I'm just going to hide the ground plane for a second. I mean, 0.25 is that. I mean, geez, it's 10 times smaller than that. Okay, I think I'm... Oh, right. Because it's always, yeah. It's doing it against 0 no matter what. Because it's not... Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little switcheroo here. So we're going to do a compare. Let's get that, and let's do a length. We're going to, oh, what? Array length? There it is. There's an array length. Interesting. So let's put the array in there and get the length of it. We're going to compare this. If the length of the array is, well, let's first see what these arrays are looking like before we go any further here. All right. Yep. Okay. So we can see here we have arrays. None of them have anything in them. We're just visualizing that here, just an empty bracket. And that makes sense. So if the length is 0, the length compared is equal to 0, then we're going to do a two-way switch. Here's our condition. And we will take, so the use input 1 if condition is true. So we'll just port the temperature right through. Otherwise, when it gets closer, we'll do this one. And then we'll put the results in here. So that is going to be our logic. So it's not going to do anything if the, yep, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Nice. Okay. So now I think our PC find is maybe a little bit too small. So let's revert this to defaults. There we go. Cool. Okay. Let's see what's happening here. Yeah, it might be a little too big. So let's go back a little bit here. Cool. All right. So I think we're getting we're definitely getting that transfer across there. So that's kind of neat. And as it's hitting this thing, it's kind of cooling down. So that's kind of cool. We're getting like this build up here, but then where it's not touching and where it's starting to kind of go up higher, you know, we're not really seeing that quite as much. And so this is working pretty well. What you could, what maybe would be a better way of doing it would be, I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of what the best way of doing that would be. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Very much so. So we could go into the rock here. We could go here and say it's like 0.25 maybe. And then if we do this here, let's see, we should see a little less cooling there. Yep. And now it's like this kind of still red, smoldery kind of temperature there. It's probably still slightly moving. And yeah, it's not going to get quite as hard. So this is almost like if it was like a cold rock and lava was falling on it, or I don't know, something like that. So you could do something like that for sure. And then the other thing too is that, let's just go back to the rock here, and let's say we'll just call it like 0.1. So it's not completely zero. We'll do that. And let's come back over here and just enable this diffusion a little bit more. And let's do like 0.25 on that. And I think this will now, like if there's a section where there's like really heavy temperature touching it, it can actually melt and move a little bit more. Let's actually turn the particle visualizer back on. Guides, visual particles. We could do spheres. What about sprites? Those are goofy looking. I don't like those. Let's do the spheres. That's fine. And so what you'll see is that this the hot surface is able to actually kind of diffuse into it a little bit. And maybe what we do is give it a little bit of heat bias, maybe like that. And that should, I think, help it flow from the hot to the cold a little bit easier. And it'll kind of reactivate some of this edge of this hot or this cold area here. Could also increase the radius of it a little bit. Yeah, and you'll see that, these are going to be kind of battling each other, right? Because this cold here is going to, keep trying to freeze this stuff. And as well, like some of this is a little funky, like it's just floating in the air here. So it's not like, obviously this isn't exactly how you'd want it to go. Yeah, but anyways, you can see that we are still able to diffuse some of the temperature here, and it'll actually kind of allow this to move a bit more. Anyways, so there we go. That's kind of working. So that's kind of, that was sort of what I was hoping it would do. I think we're getting kind of pretty close to that. You could also do noise on the object as well and have hot and cold spots. So that could be kind of an interesting thing you could set up. Yeah. So you get into some really strange stuff there, right? Because you have to kind of control when that is happening, like when that update is going back and forth between the geometry. I almost feel like it's something you would import that geometry into DOPS and then keep it as a separate geometry and keep updating it. That would be my thought, but I feel like that's a much deeper thing than I'm like going to be able to set up right now. But yes, you definitely should be able to do that. I don't see why not. Coupling of sims is always really tricky. Yeah, it's always pretty hard to do. So yeah, it should be possible to do that and have it go back and forth. But like I'm saying, what I probably, I think you can do, where is it here? I think you can do this, right? And let's just see here. I'm just gonna, no, I don't want it to do like that. Let's just do, what's that angry about? Okay, let's try this. I kind of feel like this might be possible. I'm not 100% sure, but let's see. Yeah. Interesting. Hmm. We're not seeing it, but the geometry is there. And that's interesting because it actually put the geometry into as a separate geometry in here. Huh. I'm not sure how you would exactly go about doing that, but that is really interesting because we have another piece of geometry underneath our flip object called test, because I just called it test. But if we called this like rock temp or something like that, and then let it go, that's going to put a rock temp geometry in there. And hold on, let me just see here. Set uh, set attribute. Is there a set point? Oh, that's weird. I thought there was a weird. Um, ooh, interesting question there. Oh, I thought that would work. Okay, so Alexander is asking a question here. Which course of Houdini is best for beginners? A solid, consistent road to pro. Personally, I really love how Rob McGee talks about stuff in the foundations course. I think that's a really great way to get some of the beginning steps into Houdini, going. Um, I think that's a really good one. Yep, Nine Between is another great one. That's Moeen Saeed. He does great work. Houdini is hip. I think he's done some other ones. Houdini's Not Scary, some things like that. So, but the Houdini Hip is his newest course. So that's a great one. Yeah, I would take a look at those. There's a getting started page on the Side Effects website. Take a look at that as well. There's lots of great resources there that can help you start to go through your journey. I mean, certainly getting to a pro level is a lot more than just what a few tutorials will get you. I mean, for me, I did a lot of self-learning, but purchased a bunch of tutorials and got to a lot of yep, Houdini course. Yep, that's a good one as well. For me, once I started getting into wanted to get into more practical stuff, like really professional stuff. The applied Houdini from Steve Nipping is awesome. Really great stuff. Gives you a lot of good ideas on how to do real setups like a professional. And that's a great course for when you're down the road. Yeah, there's lots of stuff out there, honestly. It's hard to say that there is like one best route, to go. But yeah, there you go. There's some ideas for you. Maybe some other people in the chat have some ideas as well. Yeah, Matt did a lot of great stuff with Joy of X, and yeah, we did that here. Gosh, it was a while ago now. It was the beginning of last year. It's almost 2 years ago I did that. That's crazy. Um, okay. I'm just going to do this. It's a float attribute. Joy of Vop. Vops are quite a bit easier, I feel like, than Vexes. You just kind of wire things together and they start working. But yeah, I understand. Okay, so geometry handle be 2 because it would be the third input. And point, we're going to set temperature. Where's our value here? Oh, value right here. All right, let's just see what happens here. I can't say that this is going to work, but let's see. No, it didn't work. Is there a create? Interesting. Okay, so I'm just gonna try one more thing, just because this is a really interesting question, and I really want to know if this is how this would work. I'm probably way off base, but that's okay. Let's actually get the geo instead of the out rock, because this actually has temperature on it already. So I'm just curious if this is going to do it or not. All right, let's see here. How can I see if any? No. What if I do that? Let's just try that real quick here. No, doesn't look like it. Okay. Anyways, there's definitely a way to do it, I'm sure. I'm just screwing around now. Anyways, okay. So that is one thing that we can do here. So what if we did this the other way though? So I'm kind of yeah, no problem, Alexander. Welcome. All right, so let's say we do this. We're gonna add a new sim here. I'm just gonna hide that. We're gonna call this flip, maybe melt. We'll call this, and I'm also going to set another geo emitter here, and I'm gonna say, I'm just gonna say hi VISC, something like that. And so this one, we're going to set the viscosity to be pretty high. So maybe we'll do 0.25 we'll try that. Let's see if that works. All right. So here, let's change this around a little bit. So can we set the negative? We can. Okay. I actually don't want to enable cooling at all. That's fine. We can enable the temperature diffusion. That's cool. We'll map temperature to viscosity. That's cool as well. Okay, cool. So let's grab the other. Let's just change this out. Emitter, high visc. So we can do that. Okay, so here's our flip melt. And this one is going to be the high viscosity one. So let's see how this works here. Let's see. Okay. So that is working. That's kind of what I wanted to do. Now I just need to take the rock, and instead of it being, I'm going to say, we're going to call this cold geo. Let's do the same thing and make one that is the hot geo. And this, we'll change this to be like 1. let's try that. Oh, right. I got to change the input here. Change that. We want this to be the hot geo. And everything else should be able to stay the same, because really that's the only thing we're changing is how that temperature is being controlled. All right. I think I want the temperature diffusion to be a little bit higher on this gas temperature update. So let's set this to like 1. There we go. We could probably enable the cooling actually on this and just have it be really low, because it should still work just fine. Yeah, so I feel like this is kind of working pretty cool here. So we're actually getting this like kind of solid piece that's falling down, and parts of it are really solid here, but they're starting to flow because the rock is heating them up. So that's kind of interesting. But now when it gets down here, it's going to cool down again. So that's kind of interesting. Let's hit play on this. Yeah, that's definitely doing its thing. All right, let's actually change this cooling rate up a little bit. Play again. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have any questions on this. I think we're getting kind of close to the end of where I was thinking that this would end up being. I mean, obviously there's a lot of things you could do with this. Lots of different kind of setups and ideas. In fact, there was one of the launch presentations where they were showing like the viscosity changing through like a grid, basically. So it was like melting and dripping through it, which was pretty neat. I kind of liked that one too. So that's an interesting idea. So in this case here, we're getting, we're going to have a lot more hardening like as it hits the ground. So it should pool a little bit more. And just remember, when we're talking about the outer and inner cooling rate, that's all being controlled by the surface field. So when we have the surface field, which we can actually turn on here and kind of just look at to kind of make sense of here. If we turn on our surface, right? So anytime we're looking at something that's out towards the edge of this surface, that's where the cooling is going to be happening. So anything outside of the surface is going to be cooling in this case. Whereas the deeper in it goes, the less it's going to cool. So just something to keep in mind. There's always this surface field being calculated there. kind of wonder if we can't turn these off. Let's see if that'll. I think the spheres were getting a little heavy there as we're getting more and more particles set up here. So yeah, if anybody has any other questions or anything like that, or thoughts as we're kind of wrapping this up for the evening here, as we're kind of pushing on a couple hours of stream, I think we. Oh, that's cool. It's kind of like all slipping down. Interesting. So you could take this and kind of go a few different directions with it too, right? Like you could have hidden objects that are heating and cooling this, right? You could also do stuff where you'd be doing a similar process, but maybe sampling a volume. That's possible as well. So you could take some sort of like volumetric data and use that to add heating or cooling to something like this. Yeah, lots of ways that you could kind of take this. Unrelated question, so feel free to ignore. That's funny. Oh, if there's an easy way to do wedging in 20.5, of course there is. There's been an easy way to do wedging since PDG came out. So the way that I always do wedging is I will create a top network like this. I will come in and add a wedge like so. And let's just say I want to change the temperature of this hot rock, let's just say, right? Let's say we want to do that. So we want to change the rock between, let's say we're going to add one attribute here, and we're going to say, we'll call this set rock temp, maybe something like that. And we want it to be a range. We want 4 wedges between, I don't know, 0.1 and 1, right? So we do that. I'm just going to cook this node, and this will give us multiple set rock temps here. So we've got 4 of those, 0.4, 0.7, and 0.1. And then what we can do is we can say let's say we're gonna put this over here. We'll actually say render melting, I don't know, whatever, something like that. And here we're going to take, we're going to change this to be flip melt, and this will still be the flip melt, flip object 1, like that. And let's say we're caching this to disk, right? We're going to take this and cache it to disk. Well, what we'll do is we'll actually do a what's called a ROP fetch in here. This is just going to pull your ROP, and we're going to take the path to that file cache node. Let's see here, render melting. Here's our file cache right there, right? Hit accept. And so what this will do then is it'll actually take whatever that file cache is set to. Hey, this guy, welcome. And here we have a frame range simulation. Great, all looking good. The one thing that we'll want to do is the one thing that you'll want to do is set the file name, right? So in here, what we'll do is, sorry, there we go. We will take, sorry, where would we put this here? Um, yeah, I guess actually the easier one to do here would not be to use the file cache because this is trying to construct a name. So probably a ROP geometry output would be better for this. So we'll just use that instead because this is going to give us like a specific thing. So you just render frame range, and this has got the frames in there. Great, whatever. You name it however you want. And what I'm going to do, what you can do then is you can take these. So let's just change this over to be the ROP instead, ROP geometry. There we go. So if we just hit generate node here, sure, save and continue. Right. So these all have the same work item, which it's not happy about. So what we would do then, frame range. Great. So what we'll do is we'll actually use this set rock temp attribute. So we can go over here and we can just say, we'll just add a little backticks in here and say at set rock temp, and that's going to pull the current value for that. So here in this case, like if we select the last work item here, that's 1. So we'll select that, then we come over here, and if we middle click that, scroll the end here, you should see it's like ROP geometry. Sorry, I need to have a period in between those. Yeah, it'll be easier to read. So there's the $F, and then so that'll be a value of 1, and we could say, like, here we could call this temp underscore, like that. And now you'll see that this will say temp 1, blah, blah, blah. And then we come over here and we can go to the rock and we can set this. We can set this to be at set rock temp. We middle click on that. That'll be set to 1 now. So when you run, let's see, we'll say generate node, save and continue. I'm going to double click on this just to open it up. We'll see there that that is working. And let's see here. Yep. The only thing here is we've got a single frame. So we just want to set a frame range. So that'll be 1 to 240. Then if we generate this node again, yeah, don't ask me again. So now this is going to save out all of those frames there, all that cache. And so with those two things there, you can set, you know, you can kind of set as many wedges as you'd like, right? You could have them be random. You could do whatever. And now we're going to have 4 times 240. So that's 960. And so you're going to have each of these is going to write, you know, multiple of these. And you can see they've got all these wires here that are connecting to these dots. So hopefully that makes some sense. And what you probably would want to do is set it to be, yes, you'd want to do this all frames in one batch. So we'll just say dirty this node, generate node. Is HScript wedge a thing? I don't know if that's a thing. Now there used to be the old way of doing this where you would do, you'd go into a ROP network and you would set up wedges in here. But that is really kind of the old way of doing it. The newer way of doing it is coming into this top network and doing this because this is going to be much more like visually makes sense. It's going to make a lot more sense. So if you do another wedge in here, like, so if you wanted 2 wedges, you could nest them this way, and you could have set rock temp, and then you could say another wedge attribute, call this something like set fluid temp, right? And we can give that a random range of samples, and maybe that would be 0 to 0.5, and you do 4 of those, right? When we cook this node, that's going to now make 16. So it's actually going to multiply together and make those two, it's going to make 4 wedges for each one of these. And you can see that displayed there. You've got 4 connections for each one of these. And then when we come down here and generate this node, we're going to have 3,840 frames because we're now doing 240 frames for each of those 16 wedges. And if you look at these, you'll see that the set fluid temp and set rock temp are going to kind of change, each time. So this one right here, right? This is our set rock temp of 0.1, and then we're going to do 4 of those. So yeah, I think this is a much nicer way of doing it. It's all very visual. It feels a little bit more Houdini-ish than going into the ROP context. If you want to take a look at how to do, to set up top stuff, there is there's a kind of an intro tutorial by one of our old interns, Daniel Lee, who's awesome, really smart guy. And he does a whole walkthrough of tops, and it's super nice. You can find that on the Side Effects website if you go to the tutorials and select, tops, and look for his intro to prefix PDG attributes to help yourself 2 weeks from now. P at. Are you saying like doing it like this, like PDG set rock temp, like that, kernel? Something like that. You're saying over here? Interesting. I didn't know that you could do that. Huh. So, that's interesting. P at set rock temp. Huh. Can any letter go in there? No, just P. Huh. I did not know that. That is really interesting. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. Thank you. I'm looking at that right now. Let's see here. I'm going to pull this over here and we can take a look at that. That is a great tip, by the way. Thank you. Where did you... Important note. Under the notes here. I wonder where it is. Oh, by the way, if it's in a section, you can do this just in case you have never done this before. You can actually copy this link right here and it'll send you right to that paragraph. So if that is... Let me see here. Yeah, I'm really curious where this is now, where it says this. That's too bright. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Oh, man. Sorry, Mattis. I'm blinding you. I'm really interested as where that is. Thanks for sharing that, man. That's really great. I got timed out on Twitch. Oh, no. Pull. Okay. Oh, my gosh. Valid prefixes are G for geometry. Just in case people can't read this. That is wild. That is a great tip. Where did that just go? Push, pull. Right here. However, you can avoid that situation by using the prefixes for the add operators and expressions. The valid prefixes are G for geometry, C for context options, P for PDG work item attributes. P at size will always resolve to the size work item, even if there's an available context option or geometry attribute with the same name. Oh, that's so good. Oh, man. Link on Twitch, Peter. I don't know what that means, but I will. I'll send a link. There you go. Hopefully that works. That should share it over to Twitch, I think. Oh, that's great. Thank you, Kernel. I don't know how to say that name, but that's awesome. Great tip. Man, that's fantastic. I'm blown away by that, honestly. I've never done that before. That's super helpful. Yes. Do P at. You will. Yes. It'll help yourself 2 weeks from now. Exactly. Oh, I did the pronunciation right. Well, good. Okay. Well, anyways, it was a fun little sidetrack. Gideon said something earlier about viscosity is like a nightmare. Stuck in a project for an espresso filter with many little holes. Ooh. Honestly, unless you need to see the fluid going through the holes, I would just emit it from underneath, like have small emissions below it. But I definitely know what you mean, because that's really tricky, because you need to have like surface tension along the entire bottom of it and have like the particles stick to that. I almost think you want to do like some like, you would want to do like some forces to like kind of make it like stick a little bit to that whole plate. Because I know what you're talking about, Gideon. You were talking about like the bottom of a espresso filter, basically like the press where it's coming out. It's like a big like disc of like fluid coming out of it. Anyways, but yeah, whenever you're doing simulation, cheat as much as possible, because you're not getting extra points for, especially if you're doing stuff like, if you're doing stuff that's just pretty, which pretty much everything we're doing in Houdini is just pretty, unless you work for NASA and are doing science visualization. Just cheat it, just use forces to keep the fluid where you want it to for as long as you can. And then, kind of mess around with it in those ways. You can also maybe use suction forces. You could set something like that up and give it a little suction force to like stick to the bottom. So like make a little disc underneath it, have the fluid like dripping out, but then sort of suctioning across the bottom. So you maybe get a little bit better, stuck to it. But anyways, all right. Well, if we have any more questions, I'm happy to take them. But if not, I'm going to start wrapping things up here, because it's getting close to 8 o'clock on the East Coast of North America, where I am. And getting ready to wrap it up. So, I think we'll start. Cool. Yeah, Zach, welcome. Glad to have you here. And happy Thanksgiving to you as well, to all the folks in the U.S., but also in general. It's great to be thankful for things, and no reason that has to be one country that's taking that thing. Yeah, no problem. You're very welcome. As always, if you're interested in joining the Discord server, there's a link on HoudiniHangout.com, so you can go there and get the Discord link. Always a great place to put suggestions for streams, things like that. This is exactly where that came from. Carlos, yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, everybody. Well, it seems like we're good. I don't have any other questions or any thoughts or anything like that. 8 p.m. Yeah. Yeah, right. No, man. I used to start at 8 East Coast time, and then when I realized how many that I couldn't believe people were watching from Europe, and I was like, oh shoot, I guess I need to make it earlier. So yeah, it's more just gotta be nice to my voice. It gets a little crazy if I talk too long. Anyways, well, thank you everybody for joining. I think we got some cool stuff out of this. If you want to take a look at the files for the stream, they will be up online. Shortly after this, I'll upload them. You can get a link. There's a Hip Files channel where there's a link to a Google Drive. There's a Google Drive link there that you can use to download. Of course we're watching. Well, when I first started this, nobody was watching, so I do appreciate it. That's pretty cool. But anyways, go tackle your work. Thanks everybody for joining. Things might be getting busy in the coming months. I am planning to stream next week, but I have to kind of keep an eye on social and things like that for if there's going to be any changes to the streaming schedule, just as we get into the busiest probably time of the year for everybody. So, it's 6 a.m. Oh my gosh. Need to head for college. Yeah, well, good. Go learn some stuff. Have fun. Great, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining. It's always great getting to chat with you all. And, if you're watching after the fact, feel free to put a comment on the videos. And, hope to see you next week. And looking forward to chatting some more, doing some more Houdini then. So, happy Thanksgiving to everybody that's celebrating or just feels like being thankful. And, have a slice of apple pie no matter where you are, and enjoy some time with family and things like that. So thanks everybody for joining, and I'll see you next time. Bye everybody.